Is global shutter the next big thing? Hi, it's Peter here, and let's get right into the business. Sony has just launched a new camera, A9 Mark III. The interesting thing about this camera is that it has a global shutter. And let's talk about why global shutter might be the next big thing. But before we talk about that, there's another interesting innovation or new feature in a camera, and that's a authentication method in Leica M11P camera. And it writes encrypted data to the metadata so that it can be authenticated that the image is genuine and it has not been altered. Because, of course, digital photography has kind of compromised the truth of a photograph. It's not as good as a proof like it used to be. This is what they say in the Leica website, and I will quote. The M11P pioneers the use of encrypted metadata in compliance with the Content Authentication Initiative. This feature provides an additional layer of transparency to the conception and modification of an image file, bringing awareness to the file's provenance. With the Leica content credentials, each image you capture receives a digital signature backed by CAI compliant certificate. You can easily verify the authenticity of your images at any time by visiting contentcredentials.org/verify or in the Leica Photos app. And if I remember correctly, Canon had similar stuff way back with the EOS cameras. I don't know if you remember that, but I think it was a piece of software that you could use to authenticate images taken with the Canon cameras. I don't know if that still exists. With the quick Google search, I could not find it. But if you remember that, please tell us in the comments down below. And if you have any links to it, maybe there is some archive that we can find that information. It would be interesting to read about that and what happened to it. It's a bit strange that this type of authentication has not been mainstream for many, many years already, because it's so easy to alter digital photographs and manipulate them. And especially now with AI, it's even easier for many of us to manipulate the truth, which is, of course, a bad thing if the image is a document or if it's journalism. That's a scary thing if we get a lot of disinformation, and photographs are part of that. And then to the global shutter. What is it? Let's talk about that first. Well, it's a kind of like a shutter that it's built into the sensor. So we don't need a separate shutter anymore in a camera. And this is a big thing because global shutter can read the whole image area at the same time. The traditional sensors up till now reads from the bottom up. So if you're photographing a really fast moving subject, that reading from like this might be a bit of a problem, but we will talk about the advantages, and maybe there are some disadvantages too. And let's start with the global shutter benefits. Well, the first one is there is no rolling shutter because the sensor data or the image is read from the whole sensor area at the same time. So there won't be any like there is with the traditional sensors until up now, is that it starts reading from the bottom and goes way up. And if the subject is moving really fast, the image is exposed at the bottom of the sensor earlier than on the upper part. Yeah, I know it sounds a bit crazy, but that's what it is. That's what happens with the traditional mechanical shutters and with the sensors too. But with global shutter, it reads it all the whole thing area at the same time, and there won't be any rolling shutter. So really high bursts like 120 frames per second like this Sony A9 can do, there won't be any rolling shutter or distortion in the image. So it will be, better quality. I don't know if I said it a bit complicated, but you know what I mean. And then no flash sync speed. Usually when we're using flash, the camera has a fastest sync speed that can be used. And usually it's around 125th of a second. And that is, of course, a problem if there is really bright light. But with that, a global shutter, there is no, because the exposure starts immediately and the flash sync can be used no matter what or flash can be used with no matter what the shutter speed is. And this is very good if you need to use flash in sunny conditions and the shutter speeds are really high and you want to have a, nice background blur. And then no banding. Because the sensor is, or the image is read at the same time from the whole sensor area, there is no problem if there are flickering lights, because in some cases where the lights are flickering, there is this black moment that is pitch back, the light is off. So if that happens during the exposure, you might have the lower part of the image brighter than the upper part of the image, or even totally black if it's one of those real old type lights. So this won't happen with the global shutter. So there are a lot of benefits. But are there any downsides on global shutters? Well, the first thing is the price. Most likely it will take several years before this technology trickles down to consumer cameras, because the technology at the moment is quite expensive. And one part of the expensive thing is that it captures so much data at the same time, so they need powerful processors. And that's also why the A9 is only 24 megapixels, which I think is no problem. But making let's say a 50 megapixel global shutter sensor would require huge amount of processing power, and it will take a few years at least, or even more, after these global shutters will be in high megapixel cameras. But I bet that day will come someday. Why are these technologies important? I think we start with the Leica Authentication software, and I already said a few things. It can prove that the photograph is authentic and it has not been altered. And during crises, where the first victim is usually the truth, this will help in that, I hope. Global shutter gives us more possibilities, and for most of us, the flash sync speed, so that it doesn't exist, you can use any shutter speed, is one of the big things, because then you can use flash in very bright conditions with fast shutter speeds, and you can open up the aperture to have background blur, and I think that's a big advantage. And of course, sports photographers, when there's no rolling shutter, it will be easier to catch images that don't have any distortion because of the fast-moving object. That will help a lot. And I bet other manufacturers will follow, like Canon has said that most likely in their next flagship camera might have a global shutter, but that remains to be seen. At least Sony has put some pressure on them, and Nikon too. But then there is one thing that we have to remember. All these technologies does not help if you don't have the skills to photograph. It doesn't help you at all if you don't know how to photograph sports or fast-moving object. You need the skills in that, so it won't help you automatically. You need the skills first, and then it can make your images better when it's helping you. So what do you think about these new technologies? What's your take on global shutter and the Leica authentication thing? Please tell us in the comments down below. And here is my latest video for you to watch next. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.